Imagine a time when the streets felt safe, the skies were clear, and the world seemed predictable. But in the late 1960s and early 1970s, something terrifying began to unfold in California. A killer, unlike any before him, started to terrorize the Bay Area. And to this day, he's one of the most infamous criminals in history. Who was the Zodiac Killer? What drove him to commit such horrific crimes? And most importantly, why has he never been caught? The Zodiac Killer's story is a dark puzzle that still haunts us, even decades later. Everything began on December 20th, 1968. It was a cold, winter night in a quiet part of Vallejo, California. Two teenagers, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, were out on a date. They had no idea that their night would end in tragedy. Betty, Louisiana, and David were parked on a secluded road when a man approached their car. Without warning, he opened fire, killing both of them. But what was even stranger was that the killer didn't stop there. He walked away from the scene, leaving no clues behind. Police were puzzled. No one had ever seen anything like this before. But this wasn't the end. No, this was just the beginning of something much darker. Almost 7 months later, on July 4th, 1969, a couple named Darlene Farron and Michael Maggio were also parked in a remote area. Out of nowhere, a man approached them. This time, he shot them both. But here's the chilling part after the shooting. The man didn't just leave. He walked up to their car, looked at the victims one last time, and calmly drove off miraculously. Michael survived, and his description of the killer was similar to the one given after the first murder. But what came next was beyond anyone's imagination. A few days after the attack, a letter arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle. It was from the killer himself. In the letter, he bragged about his crimes, saying he enjoyed killing and promised to continue doing so. He even included a cipher, a secret code he wanted the police and the public to solve. People were terrified, but at the same time, they were curious. They tried to crack the cipher, but it wasn't easy. It would take months before some of the code was finally solved. But even then, the Zodiac's identity remained a mystery. As the months went by, the Zodiac continued his reign of terror. He taunted the police and the public, sending more cryptic letters, including one that threatened a bus full of children. And each time, the killer seemed to be steps ahead of everyone. Though there were many suspects, none of them were ever proven to be the Zodiac. Some even believed the killer might have been someone close to the police, or someone who knew how to evade detection. No matter what the police tried, the Zodiac was always one step ahead. In 1974, the Zodiac sent his last known letter, and with that, his reign of terror seemed to come to an end. But even then, questions remained. Some of the Zodiac's ciphers were never solved, and the mystery of his identity continues to puzzle investigators. Over the years, there have been many theories. Some believe the Zodiac was never caught because he was simply too clever. Others think the killer might have died or moved away. And some even wonder if the Zodiac was someone we've already forgotten. After all these years, the Zodiac Killer's identity remains a mystery. We know he was active in the late 60s and early 70s. We know he murdered at least 5 people, and we know he loved to play mind games with the police and the public. But we'll never truly know who he was, or why he did it. Could he still be out there, living in the shadows? Or did he get away with murder so perfectly that no one will ever be able to catch him? The Zodiac Killer is a puzzle that may never be solved. But one thing is certain, his crimes will never be forgotten. What do you think? Who was the Zodiac Killer? Let us know in the comments below. Subscribe for more chilling true crime stories.